Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Star Wars The Old Republic video. I'm Loronline, and today I'll be counting down my top 10 content plans for Star Wars The Old Republic that were ultimately scrapped. Hopefully I'll be able to share something new or interesting with you that you otherwise didn't know about. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy yet another Star Wars The Old Republic top 10.
Number 10.
At number 10 today, we have the planet of Sleheyron, a planet originally pitched for the BioWare title KOTOR 1, but was cut fairly early on during its development. BioWare originally produced screenshots of the planet for advertisement purposes, distributing said screenshots to Lucasfilm and the press in the hope of building hype around this experimental title, but due to budgetary restraints and time limitations, the planet was ultimately cut from the game. However, a group of modders managed to reconstruct the planet based on nothing but said screenshots, and players are now able to download this KOTOR mod and experience the planet for themselves. The overwhelming support for the Sleheyron planet inspired the developers of Star Wars The Old Republic to consider adding the planet to the game. Back in vanilla, a data miner simply by the name SWTOR miner found traces of the planet mentioned in the form of leaked content concerning the upcoming 2.0 expansion at the time. Supposedly, the planet Makeb was not the only planet in development, as Sleheyron was originally meant to contain class stories for both the Empire and the Republic. The Imperial story seemed to revolve around various Imperial scientists and would be led by Darth Calomenia, who has not had any further mention since this 2.0 leak, whilst the Republic story would feature Republic scouts led by a Commander Nikos. The two factions would inevitably engage in some conflict, but the storyline was never fleshed out, and the rest is simply speculation.
Number 9.
Ninth on our list today is the scrapped planet of Bothawui, which was data mined alongside the planet Sleheyron. This planet was also intended to be released with 2.0, but was believed to be cut due to budgeting problems at SWTOR's launch. Bothawui is best known for its featuring alongside the original SWTOR timeline promotional videos that discuss the lore of various planets around the galaxy. This video specifically discusses Bothawui and the Imperial takeover of the planet in 3671 BBY, 18 years before the Treaty of Coruscant. Unlike Sleheyron, however, Bothawui's dialogue was leaked, which I will link in the video description. This leak informed data miners that the planet would be strictly pub-side, so only playable via the Republic faction. The storyline entails a unique class story for every class, unlike the current storyline methodology where all classes feature the Outlander. The console story, for example, involved hunting down a Torwin Vel, who I will link in the video description, whilst the Trooper class story seemed to evolve around stopping the Imperials from bunkering down on the planet. This idea of having unique class quests has always been a preferred form of storytelling personally, but with the problems at SWTOR's launch, I can understand why the budget needed to be cut. The planet Bothawui has also had various references more recently, with the KOTEF expansion, where certain file directories hinted at the planet's possible return, such as the Vaylin promotional art currently on the Star Wars The Old Republic website, but unfortunately so far nothing has came of it besides a subtle reference to the Boffin Homeworld.
Number 8.
Following on, at number 8 today we have a mirror planet to Bothawui, this being the Imperial Homeworld of Ziost. Ziost again was anticipated to be released in 2.0, but was ultimately delayed until the Shadow of Revan expansion, specifically patch 3.2, where players currently face off against Emperor Vitiate prior to the KOTEF storyline. The original story for Ziost was leaked to the Tor community prior to 2.0, where quest maps and dialogue was leaked, alongside an initial image of the soon-to-be added zone. The storyline, similar to Bothawui, would also be class-specific, this time to the Imperials. For example, the Warrior story had players fight against Jedi Master Nos Jarao in the Han's Fortress on Ziost, similarly to the current Ossus storyline. Whilst the Inquisitor would go to the Emperor's Tower and help various Dark Council members with tasks, the Bounty Hunter and Agent also featured planet-tailored stories, which I will link in the description. Ultimately, Ziost never reached its full potential, but I think it's fair to say, at least the planet made it to the game.
Number 7.
At number 7, I've gone with both the Zakuul Stronghold and the Hoth Stronghold, as both were planned to be released during KOTET. The Zakuul Stronghold firstly was data mined and made to resemble the Palace of the Eternal Dragon from KOTET Chapter 6. The directory to the Stronghold was snuck into the game files alongside patch 5.2, but data miners managed to uncover the hidden file and made it public shortly after launch. However, the Stronghold itself never made it to official release, and the community is starting to wonder if the Stronghold will ever even surface. As for the Hoth Stronghold, more recently uncovered during patch 5.8, the directory again was hidden amongst patch files and was uncovered almost immediately, leading to some speculation around whether or not this was done purposefully by the devs to test audience reactions, or if the devs once again made an oversight. The Stronghold anyway was planned to have its own region on the planet Hoth, where players could purchase the Stronghold from a directory and be transported to the new location. The appeal of the Stronghold was never revealed, but players believed it was similar in design to the Glacial Fissure region on Hoth.
Number 6.
Next up at the 6th spot on today's list is a cancelled game mode. So unlike a regional zone, this would be an event planned for the SWTOR MMO. This event being the Bunter XIV pod racing event that was planned to be very similar to the original Swoop race minigame featured throughout the KOTOR franchise. The game mode would be queuable similarly to how Starfighter is today, and would have players run multiple laps in an attempt to defeat opposing players. Players would also be allowed to upgrade and change their pod racer or swoop bike in both a cosmetic and upgradable sense. The cosmetic appeal for the vehicles would be tied strongly to the cartel market, whereas actual upgrades would be unlocked by competing in the Swoop game mode. The game mode itself would have encompassed a vast range of items and utilities that made the experience seem that bit more interesting. One such example being the addition of power-ups that would add more flair to the experience. These power-ups could range from missile strikes to stealth fields. The whole concept in my opinion seemed very much so like Mario Kart, but with swoop bikes and pod racers. Unfortunately, the game mode came across some technical hurdles that severely affected server performance and was thus not released.
Number 5.
Halfway on our list today, we have the Imperial Warlord Flashpoint from 2.0, which would function similarly to the Circa Flashpoints as seen in the Titan of the Industry questline. The story revolves around Grand Moff Regus going rogue and separating from the Empire. Regus's motives are purely alienist, as he does not agree with allowing aliens into the Empire itself, and therefore he only trusts humans and droids. And he thus managed to gain support from the remnants of Malgus' Empire. I will link the full patch dialogue in the description, but the Flashpoint appears to be quite far through development. The Flashpoint itself seems to function as the primary introduction to Jace Malcolm, who we all know from the Iocath arc. For the Republic side, players would align themselves with Malcolm in an attempt to stop Moff Regus, whilst the storyline as an Imperial player involved preventing another great schism within the Empire. The reason for this content being cut is for the most part unknown, but upon speculation, most argue that due to the Rising Dread Master arc at the time, the Empire and Republic did not necessarily need another third-party faction to fight. The Flashpoint was planned to take place on Regus's fleet over the planet of Anvarus, where the player would make his way planetside and defeat Regus within his own fortress. After assaulting Regus's ship with a small boarding party, the player would defeat Regus on the planet, and the remaining supporters of Regus's army would surrender, and the player would be congratulated on beheading the Serpent, quote-unquote. Images and concept art of the Flashpoint unfortunately never emerged, and the idea was scrapped a few months before the release of the expansion.
Number 4.
The runner-up on today's list is one of the more recent data mines discovered on the 5.10.3 PTS server, this data mine being the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine. Initially, players discovered this zone by exploiting various zone boundaries and managed to stumble across these two large settlements. The first is positioned to the southwest of the daily zone, and the second is positioned to the northeast. Upon investigation, players found that one zone belonged to the Imperials, featuring a vast array of Imperial banners, and that the other was intended to be the exterior to the Jedi Enclave. There is much speculation concerning the intended use of these zones, but based on the layout and design, the zones were more likely to encompass an array of quests for both factions. Oddly, there's an elaborate tram system similar to the Skybridge on Onderon above the Imperial base, whilst the Jedi Enclave seemed to feature a peculiar war-torn settlement. Both zones were surprisingly far along in development before they were scrapped, but unfortunately Charles Boyd announced via a forum post that the zones were cut because they specifically did not fit the current pirate theme that the planet was going for, and as a result the planet was halved in size, which was a shame, but hopefully this content will be recycled and used in a future patch.
Number 3.
Around the time of the Kraga's Palace operation prior to patch 2.0, information concerning the planet of Varro was leaked. Specifically, a dialogue between the player and a Commander Callum discussing a coalition of crime lords who abandoned the Hutt cartel in favour of the Dread Masters. These Hutts were using stolen Greed technology to restore their homeworld of Varro that was currently a radiated cesspool of lava and swampland. The player was tasked with hunting down the crime lords alongside their Dreadmaster allies. Unlike other mentions on this list today, the planet of Varro itself was outright cancelled, meaning there were no plans to implement the planet in the near or even far future, inferring that it's very unlikely that players will ever see Varro within this context. As for the storyline for Imperial players would see the return of the Geoharden, a faction that was later resurrected in Kotet Chapter 2, Run for the Shadows, alongside Asina's Arc. As for Republic players, they would be tasked with tracking down a super weapon of sorts, the same weapon that destroyed the planet of Varro in the first place. The aim would be to stop the crime lords from using said weapon on other systems. This is a similar arc to the Iocath story. Now, no one knows for sure why the planet was removed, but it's likely that the planet of Varro was removed due to planetary similarities with Oricon in its current state, and therefore the developers decided to focus more so on Oricon than this Hutt homeworld.
Number 2.
Back in 2015 at the New York Community Cantina, players asked a series of questions to developers. The developers responded to one question in particular concerning Pazak and Sabak, and how the developers originally planned for these two game types to be available as minigames. But due to technical difficulties and funding, the developers had to prioritize other content over these minigames. The original pitch, upon speculation, involved purely AI-driven minigames, so no player interaction. The example referred to was during the Republic Flashpoint the SLS, where originally players would be able to click on the Pazak table featured within the Flashpoint and play a tutorial game of Pazak with AI. But due to the mentioned complications, the table simply became a codex entry. Imperial players would also have a soft introduction to Pazak, but the devs did not announce how this would come to be.
Number 1.
First on our list today is in my opinion one of the most disappointing planets to have scrapped from the game, this being the original plan for the planet Ricotta Prime. Ricotta Prime currently features alongside the Forged Alliance arc in the Flashpoint Legacy of the Ricotta, and is arguably one of the most beautiful locations in the game. Unfortunately, despite the planet's positive response from fans, Ricotta Prime only appears twice throughout the Star Wars The Old Republic MMO. Whilst back during Update 2.0, the original planet was data mined, and story concerning the original design was leaked. Developers had planned Ricotta Prime to be a daily zone that the player would travel to after their storyline on the planet of Varro, as discussed earlier in this video. The narrative would involve players preventing a Dreadmaster uprising and ultimately stopping the Dreadmasters from obtaining a super weapon dubbed Aegis, which was similar in design to the Death Star and would again be a planet killer. This weapon was built by the Ricottans and very little is known about their origins. This update would have expanded upon the ancient race and provided tons of narrative depth. The storyline has been leaked and is in the description if you'd like to go take a look. And there we have it, the top 10 scrapped content from Star Wars The Old Republic. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, it took quite a bit of effort to uncover all this information about SWTOR's content history, and I'd like to think it's paid off. As for my channel, feel free to hit the like button, it really means a lot, and of course if you'd like to subscribe for more future content, it would be very appreciated. Additionally, you're welcome to follow me on any social media platform, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. I even stream on Twitch if you'd like to go take a look. In the meantime, I wish you all a great rest of your day, and again, thank you all very much for watching. Bye guys.